Welcome back to Let's Talk Race and Marlon. I'm your host, Harrison Paul. We need to talk about race. We need to talk about race. That is what that sentence keeps ringing in my mind as I'm preparing for this show today. We need to talk about race. We're going to talk about Kamala Harris. That's the main topic of discussion today. Kamala Harris finally spoke on the long-awaited subject that she was dodging for quite some time. And I owe Kamala an apology, actually. I'm going to be honest, because when she wouldn't speak about it, I would say, oh, you see, she likes to be vague and play both sides. And come on, that's what we're all saying. Oh, when she puts on the southern accent, she's just dipping her foot in black water, but not necessarily trying to indulge too much in it. And I think Kamala gave us the most articulate answer she could have given us. Anybody who is actually well-versed in the subject of race will understand what it means and the answer she gave. Why this answer is so important and so brilliant is because we underestimate what people like Kamala go through in the places in which they are. We underestimate what it means to be black in a high space. Now, please, disclaimer, anybody here who thinks I'm pro-Israel or who thinks I'm, happy that she's pushing a genocide in whatever, I think that's an American agenda. Regardless of who sits in that seat, that is going to be an American agenda. There's certain agendas that are American agendas. But with that being said, I had a great conversation with a friend of mine, and he's very much against Kamala Harris and all that stuff. And we could have a nice discussion and come to a nice, balance where we said, listen, while I respect the fact that culturally this definitely could shift things and be a paradigm shift in the minds of people in the timeline of from the plantation to the White House, I understand that materially there are some things that it may just not be worth it in his perspective. And I respected how he could say, I can see that. And I said, to be honest with you, I'm actually not against you with that. I'm very much with you. I don't think, if we think about the American government, they're not a safe government, to be quite honest with you. So it's very fair to think that way. Do I think that America will actually stop how they're treating Africa and stop exploiting Africa? No, I don't. But in a last resort, I'm thinking materially things won't change unless things culturally can change. How close are we to getting people who have, some form of morals there in terms of like someone with the likes of Jeremy Corbyn, as we can say, people like that who will go in and make radical change, who say they will anyway. How close are we to them, people like that getting into power? It's very difficult. That's why we call someone way too far to the left. Even if you think about how Sir Keir Starmer just won his election right now, he had to kind of shift slowly back into the middle and be a little bit middle left. To be honest, right before his even victory over the Tory party, some were even arguing he's middle right. And that's the unfortunate thing of politics. You are governing over far right, you are governing over middle, you are governing over left, and everybody has a valid vote. Everybody's vote counts, whether that person has a degree, whether they do not have a degree, whether that person is well versed in politics, whether they get their politics information from Facebook memes. Everyone has a chance and an opportunity and a right to go out and vote. This is the issue that we have. So when we look at the issue that we have, we think of, okay, we have to shift this world culturally first and where it's going. Because if the consciousness of the earth can raise and lift up, that means people who are going out to vote differently. If we think about the level of consciousness where we were when people were voting for slavery to stay in and voting for black people not to have a right to vote, that's what the level of consciousness, until we raised people like Martin Luther King, people like Nelson Mandela, raised the consciousness of the earth. So then now you have people who probably would have been voting against black people getting a vote in a different lifetime are now voting for the very things that are beneficial to us as a world, never just mind black people. So we underestimate with that me laying that foundation. We underestimate what people like Kamala Harris really go through in those tight spaces. And as much as I want to just dive into her answer here, let me just really lay the foundation. Because I said this in my prior episode, I put this on the screen for you, and I had watched the debate, and I was a little bit harsh on Kamala, feeling as though she was not as convincing as I would like. Again, I did mention I only made it halfway through. I did not make it the full way through the episode, or rather the debate. So I think she was quite nervous at the beginning, and I only caught that first half of it. Apparently, she got into her groove and she got more confident and she body slammed Donald Trump. But from what I saw, it was nervousness, and I couldn't tell if that was someone who didn't know what they believed until I had to sit down and ask myself, what does it feel to be the first black woman? We underestimate that. We think someone is going to go and be the first black woman in a world. Listen, you already know. Come on, stop playing. You watching that video. You already work in an office job or something like that, and you already know when you're in the office. You already know that the air is so thin up there. You watching this who has a good job. You already know there's certain places in your office or where you work where the air begins to get thinner and thinner the higher you go in that place. And you've been fortunate to make it up there. You best understand people like Kamala who get up there and know that. And if you think that's your little corporate job and the air gets thinner where you are, can you imagine where she's at? We think just because we have a bunch of black people supporting her, there are people in that room you already know. Can she fully express herself as a black woman in that room? Or is she a black woman that's been given a chance? So let's get into the clip really quickly, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
You've always been secure in your identity, who you are, but what do you feel or what do you think when you hear people kind of questioning just the fabric of who you are?
Well, one, I don't listen to it.
Okay.
I'm really clear about who I am, and if anybody else is not, they need to go through their own level of therapy. That's not my issue.
Their issues, right?
My mother was very clear. She was raising two black girls to be two proud black women. And that was never a question. You know, it's funny because over the years, journalists, some, not most, will want to talk about it. And I say, okay, if you want to have this conversation, I'm prepared to have it, but sit down and get comfortable for a few hours. If you want to start talking about race in America, you want to talk about the 1/8 rule?
A drop.
You want to talk about what it means in terms of who you are perceived to be and the impact that can have on the rest of your life, regardless of who you actually are in terms of your God-given capacity and the rights that you have and should have. So, you know, I don't mess with that. I think that's other people trying to figure some stuff out that and they
got some issues.
They got to deal with it.
What an answer, folks. This was one of the first moments I felt like Kamala took a breath as a black woman. As I made that suggestion of like, she just said like, growing up black, and it didn't feel like a generic answer. It felt like it has been confusing. How it can alter the decision. We already know you got especially people, you already know you got mixed race people that you know. Now when the white folks come around, they act like they ain't never been black a day in their life. Why should it be different for her? You watching this video right now, I'm damn sure you know a mixed sister that when you see her in the workplace, when you see her wherever, she act like she ain't never been black a day in her life. Why does she do that? I spoke about this in my last episode. That ladder, that racial ladder, it's a real thing, right? And then, of course, we also have then this level of, what can I call it? Confusion, because sometimes there's animosity amongst ourselves. That obviously we see certain people get privileges, so we don't really feel like a sister's one of us. So sometimes it's confusing for them if, let's say, they wanted to connect to us. There's loads of stories of people coming out and saying, I wanted to be with my brothers and sisters, but they always felt like, you don't go through it like we go through it. Don't come here pretending like you about the struggle. Then they want to go over to, okay, I'm rejected here. What they call it, too white for the black kids, too black for the white kids. Then they try to go over to the white side. And I might as well give this a go. Why is it any different for Kamala Harris to be going through that? Why is it any different? I think one of the most special things I said about this is like my mother, she's 60 years old and she's going through corporate yet again. And she's in corporate now as a conscious woman. She's more conscious than she's ever been and she's back into corporate. And she explains to me how an environment like that can make you feel like a little girl again. She's almost brought back to when she was 16 and segregation ended, when Rhodesia finally became Zimbabwe and she was now able to sit with white girls after being segregated. The first black students who went into a white school. And sometimes it feels like that when she has to be in the office, in a corporate environment. This is not straightforward. Listen, I'm having a cultural discussion right now. Forget about what you think she should be doing materially with other things. Okay, I understand that. But let's humanize her for a second. Let's relate to her as a black person. Like, you're not going through that right now in your corporate job. Like, you don't know what it feels like to go into certain environments and what you guys now call code switching. Giving all these, explaining it out with all these fancy terms. Just call it assimilating, compromising who you are as a black person. Do you understand what I'm saying? So listen to this. And I want to give evidence to this right now. Here's the evidence. Check this out. We just watched Trump literally make an insult about disabled people who were born with mental disabilities. In what universe could a black woman make comments like that and survive tomorrow? In what universe could I was just thinking about why we need to talk about race. They are not running the same race. Please follow me. They're not running this for the simple reason that we have a black woman and a white man, and they are not running the same race. Tells me that we are sometimes focused on the bigger picture when we have not even got down to the simple fact that two human beings should be entitled to running the same race. How are two people coming close to head with each other whose character levels are way off from each other? Look how tidy Kamala has to be. Just character. And look how much lives Donald Trump has. Insults disabled people. You name it. Life after life after life. This shows us how far back we are. I know a lot of these people want to think of bigger picture, and we are so far away from a beautiful world. I'm so sorry to break that to you today. A world where people go into office and they cancel the genocide, and they go into office and they do the right thing. We're so far from that. Why? Because we're not even in a space where a black person is judged on the same by the content of their character. I know the right wing are using that against black people now. We're not even on that place yet. Remember that? Remember what we assumed Martin Luther had achieved by now? That's obviously not it. There is no way, if Obama had a mouth like Trump, he's making it this far. Look at all the things he can say. Wakes up tomorrow, still going. You'll check the polls, still close. Never could she be this reckless. And this shows me how we're nowhere near where we think we need to be dreaming of abolishing things that we want to abolish. We got to abolish the cultural deficiencies that we have, the foundational cultural deficiencies. We've literally not moved far from the front doorstep, although it feels like we should have. For anybody who hasn't, I'm going to play the clip of Donald Trump making fun of mentally disabled people. I want to play the clip for you guys to see it. Check this out.
Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. She was born that way. And if you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this.
There is no planet. We've got so much work to do. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Because the sentence, remember, kept coming to my head. We've got to talk about race. Do not stop talking about race. And I got some personal stories that happened in my life that I want to share with you guys today. One of the most special ones. I bump into a young man that I see often. And this time I decided to have a chat with him. And I could see, of course, he looked like a Londoner in terms of like he was socialized by black people. I could tell by his mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. And but I thought he was mixed. The haircut kind of was given a little bit of like a Phil Foden thing, you know what I mean? Like kind of the short buzz cut, thinking, okay, maybe brother's mixed. I said, are you mixed? He goes, nah, I'm Turkish and mother's Irish. So, you know, like he's basically a European, you know? And I go, oh, I was raised in Ireland. He goes, oh, really? Yeah. He goes, are there races out there? I go, yeah, indeed, yeah. And he goes, oh, wow, really? Yeah, we started talking about it. He goes, I can imagine. He said to me, I suffer racism and I'm not even black. When people just get a whiff of my black mannerisms, oh my goodness. I'm judged by that. I can already get like a secondhand smoke from that. Just people can hear my tone, mannerisms, how I move, and they know. Yeah, he be with those black boys. And he already will get discriminated. He'll get a different treatment. He'll get a different whatever. So we're talking about Kamala here, who's had to face this type of world that we're living in. And now we're saying, are you black? Are you not black? Damned if she does. Damned if she doesn't. And you kind of feel like it's a free range. Yeah, it's one thing when you're lifting and going. And remember, Kamala's generation, like our parents' generation, how many of you know your parents? Some of our parents, okay, especially African Americans, I will say, they're very conscious. A lot of them can be conscious. But we have to admit, our generation had a lot of things figured out in terms of the courage to be boldly, unapologetically black and open about that. I feel like our parents' generation didn't really understand the difference between being diplomatic and, you know, hiding and covering up who you were. A lot of them, out of survival mechanisms, kind of saw it as being a proper. I'm going to try and make sense of this. So when you get someone like Kamala who can have this confusion, you name me how many people who are professional of her age, who are walking around like maybe our younger generation, where they're legitimately doing, you know, diversity and inclusion programs within workplaces, everything like that. They look for black people to have voices because of this new era that's coming where we want to clamp down and make a work environment better for everybody. But back then, let me put it this way. My grandmother, who was, again, in Rhodesia, was being told it's better for her to wear a wig in the workplace. That's the generation they come from, where they were blatantly telling you it's better for you to come with a silk press idea and not a black hairstyle. Now they're encouraging difference and celebrating difference in the workplace. So you have to know that how that affected their demeanor sometimes. So you're expecting her to come out like a 20-year-old TikToker. Yeah, I'm black, I'm proud, I'm this and that. Sometimes it doesn't happen like that. Sometimes her environment and her journey affected them, and it's for us as the new generation to carry the baton further. And why I feel we have to talk about race is because there are so many aspects of this that we have to unpack and unravel and unravel and unravel. I was talking recently also, I found myself in a very strange debate. I'll tell you. So I'm walking home from the gym, just had a great gym session, and a burrito place is doing free burritos, first 300 people. So I hop in the line. I'm like, okay, might as well. Free burrito, get some gains, get some good protein after a good workout. Why not? Hop in the line, and I start talking to this dude. He's a white brother. And he asked me, where are you from? I can tell your accent's different. I said, oh, I was raised in Ireland. He goes, was it a bit American? I said, well, I lived in Canada for 4 years. Oh, really? Yeah, I lived there a bit. Okay, I'm SA. No way, really? Yeah. Oh, guys, wait and I tell you. I have never, it all started good and well until he thought he could say to my face, he caught the wrong brother. He says to my face, says to me, because he kind of just started to say, oh, South Africa's in a bad place. If you're walking down the street, someone will come and I was walking with my sister and someone will come and say, hey, can I pay the dowry for your sister? How much is it? Saying this crime is just right. So when he said like a dowry like that, I was thinking maybe white South Africans do dowry as well. Because the term, the way he said it was just so openly like degrading black people. Like, oh, can you imagine black people, those blacks will stop, you know. So I'm thinking, surely he's maybe both about white South Africans. And there's a word South Africans call it, has to come to my mind. I'm thinking, I remember at that point as a red flag because it was just like just the tone, right? You can catch it's like South Africa's going down. But I know that, you know, it's just like going down. And the way it was coming like white South Africans saying these black South Africans are just destroying what we've built. But I was like, no, surely he wouldn't do that. He just met me. I continued the conversation. I say, yeah, the economy, because the economy's bad. I said, who's in charge of the country right now? He goes, is that not the same party that, what party is that? And he said the ANC, whatever. And I go, is that the party that did apartheid? Because I wasn't sure at that point. I was going to be confused with them. And he goes, no. But anyway, apartheid, people keep talking about it. It's finished. It's whatever. It's And that's what I said. Oh, no, man. You know, like the legacy of these things still live today. We still have to, you know, fix the legacy of these things. Yeah, but if you keep crying about the past. And he then proceeds to talk. Guys, let me tell you this. I have never met anybody more racist than that. Met face to face. You see, there's one thing with a racist who can say, this was a white South African again, just to clarify, who can say to you like, you N-word, and kind of knows what I'm saying is bad. So, but I don't care. I love it. You know, who's going to stop me from being bad? But there's this, almost he was like so convinced in his ways that he was, and in that moment I understood why South Africans are the way they are. We're complaining about people like Tyler. We're complaining about certain things that are happening. We're complaining about a lot of things that we're seeing from South Africa. How they're acting bougie on other Africans because, oh, we have white South Africans. They almost like boast to other parts of Africa because they were able to, you know, keep white people in their land. And I understood them. I judged them. I understood them. When someone is that convinced in your oppression and that confident in the position you should stand, oh my God, I'd fall for it too. If I wasn't a Pan-Africanist, if he didn't bump into the right person, that's a conversation because it was like he wasn't trying to be mean. My position was just, black South Africans were below him. It doesn't have to be beef. That was the tone. It ain't gotta be beef. It's just, this is the way God created it. This was the tone of this brother. And I began to explain to him, like, you have to, no empathy for what the black South Africans went through. I explained to him that I have a grandfather right now. My family, because my mother was actually born in South Africa, which means my grandmother, she's South African. And we're actually fighting back for land, a huge piece of vast land we're fighting back for that was taken during apartheid. And I explained to him, I said, look, I have a story, personal story to myself of a story we're trying to get back our land. And you know what this brother said to me essentially? He goes, yeah, listen, the thing is, if you keep fighting for that land in a South African accent, you fighting for land, you wasted time. You could have went and got new land. Like, it's actually happening. I think we're on the brinks of getting it back or something like that. And I explained that to him. He goes, you see all that when you just take your L and move. And he said that with so much honesty, so much conviction. And what it wasn't a drunkard. It wasn't a very educated person using all the big words. That's what I loved about the conversation. I wouldn't have entertained it if it was just someone who looked like a drunkard. That's what I was like feasting, like, oh, I can't wait to get on the show and speak about this with you guys. Just so convinced, like, you see, like, if you just wasn't just spending energy focusing. I said, bro, it isn't the past. I'm explaining to you how the legacy lives in today, and we have to rectify that. And then he goes on to say about how he suffered racism and how, this pity party completely moving over the experience of the people who are there. And I said to him, how do you expect people to have empathy for what you're explaining to me that you went through if every time they go to people like you're telling them to get over it? So you want them to feel empathy, yet you've never felt empathy for them. You don't want to rectify the wealth. The wealth is still in the same hands. And he didn't even want me saying black South Africans have suffered more in that country. He wanted to say they've suffered. It was insane, guys, what I got myself into. But what this has brought me to say, the right, I don't even want to just call them the right, this world, we're so afraid about talking about race. Do not stop talking about race. Do you hear me? We have so much to unpack. There's so much complexity. And that's another part of the argument that he had. He goes, listen, he tried to simplify it and just put it like that in the argument. Again, remember, we're in the line for the burrito, so we're like 40 minutes in this line for a burrito. I remember my missus asked me, did you get the burrito? Yeah, I got the burrito. But I was so annoyed by this guy. And in fact, I didn't even get annoyed with him, actually. He was the one actually getting annoyed. He could tell you was getting agitated. I even said to him, and if you're getting agitated by just talking about it, can you imagine the people who are living it? Who've had to live through that? And the way he kept speaking about a long time ago, I said, brother, apartheid was 30 years ago. You think you can cleanse systems in under 30 years? It was just nonsense. And what I get from certain people is this reluctancy to cleanse the thing. I know you feel weird, brothers and sisters. I know you want to come off as strong. I know you, but there's so much complexities. Because I told him, yes, I almost lost it there. He said, simplify it and put it there. I said, no. The human existence is one of the complex things. The same way if I go to do a higher degree in maths, I can't say simplify and put it that way. It is a high degree. That's why therapists are getting paid thousands across the world. Because the human existence, human experience is probably one of the most complex experiences. So there is so much complexities to this. When we talk about whether Kamala is right, she should just know straight up. Look at all the complexities now. She's a black, light-skinned, Indian, and in professional world, maybe in everyday life. Professional world, we know how it's been for us as black people, even the dark skin. And she said the 1-8 rule. Are we going to act like these things are not real? Are we going to act, like I said in the beginning of the episode, like you ain't never seen a mixed sister who look confused, don't know whether to connect you as a black sister or a black brother, or whether to drift away from you because he doesn't know if that's going to tarnish her name? Because they get an insight on how you're perceived, and they're scared. They don't know if that's going to work well for me. So you are going through this in real time? You yourself are a black person, and you've had a coon phase in your life. If you're watching this page, I'm pretty sure you've been brought here because you want to decolonize your mind. So there's so much complexities that we got to keep discussing the topic of race. I was talking to that again, and I'll just reference it again just to sign off on it. That guy I met today who said that he just in the proximity, in his mannerisms, they can say he's a Cockney, he's from Hackney, he's whatever. And this is it, I almost forgot it. You know what he told me? We were talking about racism, all that kind of stuff. He goes, brother, where I'm from in Hackney, it ain't only black kids doing stabbings. White kids are stabbing. Sometimes they even worse. I said, you joking me. Because I'm a news report, so I watch Channel 4 News. I watch all you British news. I watch it. I need to find a topic to discuss, to unpack with you guys here. He goes, brother. And I looked at me in the eye, goes, brother, sometimes you got to be more scared than white boys. They're crazy. With the Nike tracks, yeah. I said, bro, all the stabbings I ever see on Channel 4 News about the ones in London, it's like black boys, the only ones doing stabbing. Guys, they want us to never talk about race. They have had a chokehold, a full control over the narrative, over the way things are perceived, the way things are said, and they want us to move on and not discuss it. That disgusted me today to hear that. Even I fell into the trap of saying, oh, black people, we're just always doing bad. And he goes, don't get me wrong, there's black gangs. But ain't no way, like you go months on, years or whatever with no white stabbings. White stabbings are happening. Robbings, breaking and entries are happening from white boys. That's why he even told me in the hood where they're from, there ain't no white and black. It's just all ghetto. They all ghetto. It's almost there's no race. It was so nice talking to him. And it's almost like because you can't differentiate. But meanwhile, they'll have you feel like, oh, it's you. It's only you who was brandishing the knives. It's only you. And then you talk about race. Oh, here he goes again. Stop talking about race. Look at the world we live in. It's intoxicated our mind to make us believe we're the world. And we just have to just assign ourselves to that narrative. Okay, yeah, won't talk about it. Just keep on moving on. With all these complexities, we have work to do. I think famously, Mugabe had a sentence that said, he said it in Shona, you and I have work to do. My brother, you and I have work to do. We have work to do to unpack the mind, to unpack these things that have just become so normal for us to see. When's the last time you've seen a white stabbing being shown on Channel 4 News? And if you have seen it, on the ratio, how much times you see it compared to when you're seeing it on any news channel on Instagram? Oh, there they go. Oh, the blacks again. There they go. He goes, bro, I live in the ghettos. It ain't like that. Don't go like that. It ain't just one way. White boys doing dirt too. It'll never make the news. But when a black boy stabbed like a white boy who was kind of like, they'll take a nice picture of him and they'll put him as a martyr. They won't put up a picture when a nice black boy who was not ghetto was stabbed by a bunch of black boys. They won't put these things up on the news for you to see. So who's going to talk about it then if we don't want to talk about race? If we're too scared of bothering them and inconvenience them, we're going to allow this legacy to continue, right? Who's going to talk about race if we're just going to please those people like who I seen in the line for the burrito that I enjoyed? Despite almost not. Who's going to talk about it then? If we're going to give people like him the satisfaction, like he said, just shut up about it. So much legacies of apartheid, so much things we have to fix and put right still. As people are pushing against our resistance and pushing against our work, you're going to blow over and just do what they want to do, not talk about it. My brothers and sisters, Donald Trump, people like that. We have to find out who we are, figure out the complexities and what happened with us and the different categories of us, shades of us. And then we got to put right how the world reinforced a belief that we had, that they put, a belief that they gave to us, they handed to us, and then they reinforced it subconsciously, gently, lightly. Every day. Like I always say, the hard work was done ages ago. The button was pushed ages ago. Now it's making money that's making money. Just gentle pushes. They ain't got to spit on your face and call you the N-word on the street no more. That was done hundreds of years ago. Now it's just gentle media control. Just gentle, gentle, gentle. And that is why a man like Donald Trump can be as bad as he is, but guess what? 20,000 lives. makes fun of disabled people, 20,000 lives. But if Kamala said, oh, even our own community would come after her. Because we're even good at bashing each other. Did he gone down? Hooray! We love when we get to smash down a black person. We love it. You watching Trumpers, are they going to stand by him to the very end? Anyway, that's enough for today. My brothers and sisters, we have to talk about race. Do not let them. We're going to talk about this till the cows come home, and we're going to fix it until it's done. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
And I'm on a mission for you.